So my name is Balvinder Banjardar. I'm an engineering leader, director at Walmart Global Tech. And now I would not use the word Walmart more. I'll use the word retail more, right? So just to be very generic, right? So thankful to Aditya that he has invited us to share some perspective of what goes in retail, right? In terms of whatever knowledge, wisdom we have in the past 2 decades, whatever I've learned, not necessarily in the current organization, but overall my experience, right? So thank you so much, Aditya, for calling. And my experience is more of an engineering leader who builds applications, right? And it's more of, ensuring that operations do not disrupt and innovation keeps moving, right? So that's the idea. I have my team members, and this is such a great group because I have an engineering manager with me, a brilliant engineering manager, also a YouTube star, right? If you don't know, you would know very soon. And I have architect with me. I'll let them introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me here. It's exciting. And yeah, Balvinder was talking about being hungry. We have got a lot of retail recipes for you to go and use it. But my name is Narendra Lakshmana Gowda, and one of the engineering manager works at the top retail company. And and I have had a lot of experience with a lot of other retail companies in the past in Germany. So I come from a different perspective. I worked in different departments in the retail, like how AI been used. I'm really excited to share some of the recipes with you guys.
Hello, my name is Vihar. I'm a lead architect at Walmart Global Tech. Thanks for everyone's time to listening our session on retail, and then thanks Ed for inviting us here.
Vihar is trying to be too kind because he's too much into architecture, right? So, yeah, so we'll let you start wherever you want to puzzle us.
So this is a quiz right now. Tell us all about Walmart. No, that's not what the topic is. Obviously, we had to take Walmart's permission to get these folks here, and so no questions about Walmart. The only thing we can talk about is more broadly about retail and AI in retail. So we're going to stay away from talking about Walmart. But I must say, I was invited by Walmart Global Tech last week. I think a week and a half ago, and there were about 200 engineers in the room. And it was very heart-rending to see these young 200 engineers. Almost felt like you're inside like a Silicon Valley startup, and this is in DC, like who would have thought? And really bright engineers there, and they are all very curious, as much as they're contributing to AI about what's happening. And some of the conversations that happened here today, I could see that energy in the room, the right energy. We talked there about digital governance. I know today, because of the space and time, we weren't able to squeeze that in. And one of our future forums, we're going to talk more about AI governance, because we saw those questions came up today. We're going to keep this conversation boxed on AI in retail. And again, have the human side of the conversation. This is not about algorithms and models, because you can watch YouTube for that. But this is really about having that human conversation and talking about it. And there's an organizational context, which Balvinder, being a director there, he'd be able to talk to. And again, we're going to talk more broadly about the retail industry. And then we're talking about the retail industry. There's two lenses. There's a customer experience. We talked about, the phone call, the chatbot, get me to the agent problem. But again, let's see what that looks like. That's in finance. What does it look like in retail? There's the people who work within the stores. How many of us have been to a Walmart store? Oh, everybody, right? Yeah. So if you've been to that store, you think of the person that's servicing you today on the other side. And your experience as you walk through this. So someone here in the audience was showing me an example of robots they're making, that'll change the retail experience. So thinking about what that retail experience will mean in store, both for you and the person on the other side. Will that human still be there? How many of us actually gone to a retail store, not the Amazon Go, but the store where you are now the cashier? Okay. You've had to, like Home Depot has been doing it for a while, and every other store. So you can see that shift of the human experience. That's already happening. And the question is, how does that? And we have Vihar here, who's an architect who can bring that lens on the store experience. But we'll start with organizational context with Balvinder.
Yeah. So again, the hot topic is AI, right? And you all want to hear on AI, right? So of course, there's no doubt about it. Now, before we even think about AI, right? What powers AI is very important. Let it be retail, let it be healthcare, let it be transportation, let it be any organization, right? What powers is data. The reason AI is doing great is because of data, right? which means data's not only exactly data, but data's intensity, right? When you call about intensity, it means the value of the data, right? So you could only be a great organization, or you could only build something as a startup, or you can only, have products built, let it be retail sector or any sector, which are accurate, precision, and then doing great, is only because of the data. So I think about data as an engineering leader, let it be any organization. And then I think about frameworks, what makes things happen, right? If you have to address customer use cases, or if you have to address associate use cases, or you have to address inventory use cases, or supply chain use cases, or asset management, or risk analysis, or it could be anything. It is all about data intensity. It is about governance, right? So considering that, there are things where there is a lot of improvement needed. The organizations work greatly today. We all have an organization tagged along with us because the organization is billing something, earning something, right? But what do we all want? We want to make it more better, more sophisticated, right? So I believe in every area, let it be node management, or asset management, or supply chain management, or inventory management, or catalog management, right? You want to bring accuracy, and accuracy comes because there are tools built, there are associates and customers empowered, customers are empowered to shop and like an organization, and associates empowered to fulfill what customers need. So I would not get into specific tooling which we use or specific applications we would use, but I'll move the discussion a little towards Naren and Vihar, who work with me. Let them speak up what are the top use cases they have on their mind in case of customer journey. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for all the insights. I mean, what is our end goal for any retailer, right? It's the customer experience. Like, we want to make customer happy by providing what they really need, like what they want to buy. In terms of, we evaluate in terms of NPS score, or it could be customer satisfaction or customer retention, right? That's what our end goal is. And also, of course, the profits and revenue and all comes into matter. So our goal is always use the AI, use the generative AI, which is the latest trend, which solves a lot of use cases, a lot of foundational use cases to solve all of this problem. I'll just give you one example. Like, how many of you had to struggle when you have to throw a party for a game night, or daughter's birthday or something, right? You have to list down all the items which you really require, and then search all of them, add to cart, and then that was one of the strongest use case where you don't have to do that anymore. Like, all you have to do is, hey, can you show me all the items or the products which I need to celebrate my daughter's birthday, or to throw up, game night party or something. The systems are intelligent enough to identify all the products you really require on that day to arrange that party. It could be from the popcorn to Coke, or it could be even the celebration, anything you need, right? So the decoration items, everything. If you look at, these are all different catalog items which has no relation to it, but it all makes sense if you put birthday as a context or a party as a context. So that's where I see real customer experience getting elevated. Like, you don't have to go search individually and miss out one product, and then, hey, last minute have to drive all the way like 5 miles away and then get that product. So that is how the AI is actually changing the customer experience. And this is one of the examples. I think there are many examples which I can code. I want to really talk about another example. Like, how many of you have seen ads even after buy that product for another week or so, right? You guys have experience. I have experienced that. So let's say I bought a basketball. The systems knows that I bought a basketball, but you still see those ads, following you for another week or two. It's of no use, really. If you look at the total amount of computing we wasted to show that ad, even though we know that the customer has bought it, right? So it's a waste. It's a compute waste, I would say. And the second is the time and money to do that is again, it's all redundant and waste. The core reason why it is all happening is because this is all segregated, it's distributed, right? There's a lot of hundreds of dimensions of data which has to come together to identify that, hey, I don't have to keep showing this ad anymore. So that is where I see the power of LLMs or any foundational models which is trained specifically on top of these kind of data can help here. We are yet to see a lot of improvements in LLM, but there are experiments going on to make this experience much more effective. Now, if I have bought a basketball, maybe you identify the next one a customer should buy, not the same one. It's of waste. So there are more use cases like this, but I would like Vihar to throw some light on.
Yeah, so while you brought customer experience into the picture using AI, right? So sometimes in store, associates wants to improve customer experience, and AI has a few different use cases to help customers improve their experience. For example, like sometimes customers walk into the store, they might have looked up online, since the retail is moving towards omni-channel, where they can purchase online and the same product they can purchase in store. But sometimes customer really wants to look at the product and see if they really need it, right? So they'll make that shopping, they'll come to the store, and then they got stuck. Maybe the color, or maybe the size, or maybe the language barrier. So in associates, in store associates, when they are trying to help the customer who is having this difficulty with language or catalog, or maybe they're looking for similar products, if we can provide the chatbot or a voice assistant where it can actually suggest similar products, because for an associate, we don't expect them to know like thousands of items in the store, right? The thousands of aisles, and there are many items, and they can't really guide. So AI can help them boost the customer experience, and we are helping associate to improve the customer experience.
So I'll just add both the examples which Narendra has given and Vihar has given, right? We speak about accurately serving the customer in both the cases. Let it be in online version where you are trying to create one bucket for your kid's birthday shopping, or let it be an associate. It's all about data, right? Now, when Narendra mentioned that you see ads even though you buy something, why would that happen? Can anyone guess? Why would it happen that you still see ads even though you have purchased? So let's try to understand this, right? Do you have, what Ed is working on is a unified data dictionary, right? One of his core application is, right, you have all the data of the world, right? Like that, does all the data of the world exist at one place? No, these ads, as he mentioned, are targeted based on cookies. And these cookies and the ads are basically taken care by third parties or ad targeting organizations. Whereas you have a parent organization which is actually trying to sell something. There is some kind of difference between these two, right? There's no unification there, right? Which means unification of data, more intense data, would actually solve this problem in the future. I would not say would it solve tomorrow, day after tomorrow, when, but would you have one source of data for this, right? So that's what I believe. Let it be the use case of customer or associate. I study at Kellogg. I don't know how many of you know about Kellogg, right? So my professor says the most important thing to understand to build AI application is refinement of data. Think about data as similar to oil, right? So what do you do with the oil, right? You extract the oil, you refine the oil, there are some governance rules placed on it, and eventually you sell the oil. Think data in that way. Right? You extract the data from multiple sources, refine all the ETL processes. When the data is structured properly, then you can build AI tools on it. When you build AI tools on this, maybe that problem is solved someday. Right? I would not say today, but I'll leave Ed to comment on some of the things.
It's an interesting analogy of oil and data, and a lot of people would say data is the new oil, and we've probably heard that story. So I think the question a little bit goes also back to the earlier lens of the digital view. I think there are three types of AI models that are going to emerge in the future. This is just my hypothesis or prediction, whatever you want to call it. And the question is, who's going to own those models? And whoever owns those models will rule the world. It's as simple as that. Every AI company worth their salt and every investor is chasing the money to be the person that owns that model. And I'm sure we're seeing that in the media and the news and someone's calling it the agents arms race. The question is what these agents are and what are the nature of these agents that will emerge. And I'm making a prediction here that there are three kinds of agents that will come in the future. First, we heard from Martin in the education session, which I'm calling the Delta learner. the AI agent that knows what you know and can learn for you. The delta learner. It will only do the delta learning. There'll be no more need to read books because the delta learner can learn for you. Because imagine what a waste it is to read a book. I mean, sorry, no offense to all book authors. I wrote a book myself. I'm writing a second one. But it is quite a waste to read a book because there's so many words that you already know. There's so much you already know that is in that book. So mostly I used to go to bookstores as a kid and just at some point I figured this out early in my life and I read lots of books. And I have lots of books. I have several thousand in my home. And I've never read any of them. I mean, it's funny, right? You're more like a crazy book collector who doesn't read them. But I've read the table of contents of all those books. Because I figured, by and large, by reading the tables of contents, I'll figure out most of what they have to say. And then at some point, there was a book where the table of contents was very challenging, so I'd flip to the back. Most books have indexes, some of them don't. And then I'd read through the indexes to see what words do I not know. And I was crazy. One day, my parents really wanted me to study. They locked me up in the room and say, you're just studying. Because I always wanted to go out and play. Like, who wants to study, right, really? The only thing was me, myself, an empty room, and a dictionary. So I sat and read the whole thing. So at some point, I knew every word in the dictionary. And it was very frustrating for me because that was the only book, and it wasn't fun. But I had a lot of fun reading the dictionary. It's kind of weird, right? I must be the nerd. But then the interesting thing was when I was reading indexes of books, and I would read the index, I'd pretty much it would be a very quick scan for me. It was just simply, my brain would just flash for words that I didn't know. And that was it. So that was my learning process. And so in my mind, because I went through this journey personally, I kind of feel like an AI agent will be able to do this for me. So I don't even have to do that. I'm just so lazy. And the delta learner is going to learn for me. And again, come and tell me what I don't know. Because it already knows. The question is, who's going to own it? Back to the digital you question. So that's the first on AI and education. The second is finance, but I'm going to leave that because this is a retail panel. So we're going to stick to the retail. And the third one, I'm going to leave it to your curiosity, and you can grab me outside and tell me what the third agent is, or rather the second agent is. So I'm going to skip that. It is true with the finance. But the third agent is really the buyer's agent. It's the agent that you can delegate to. Imagine if you how many of us have an assistant or had an assistant? Okay, how many of us had other significant other or a spouse? Often we delegate our buying decision to someone, right? It's like, hey, can you buy this for me? Maybe a cousin, a brother, or a sister, somebody. It's like, hey, can you buy that for me? And usually they do a good job because they know enough about us, right? They live with us. They sort of know what to do. They'll never get you the wrong color flower or the wrong, color dress or shoes or whatever that may be. My son bought these shoes for me yesterday, and they were size 13. They perfectly fit fine. The point is, right, at some point you delegate that to somebody. And that delegation, you do it to somebody you trust. It goes back to the digital you, the extension of you. And that retail buyer's agent is a complex problem, and every AI company is chasing that in some sense, right? Either directly or indirectly. The question is, again, back to the digital you, who's going to own that agent? And that's the social moral dilemma question, a broader question to be answered. And that's where I think we were coming from. But I'll let Naren and others comment on that.
Yeah, I think the delta learning is what we need in the future to tackle the energy problem and all of that. So when you're talking about the models, I wanted to take an opportunity to explain in a different angle. The Gen AI is pretty famous because they are foundational models, because they understand not only one use case, they understand variety of information, and then it can generate for you, right? I mean, we all talk about generative AI, and in general, this is nothing magic, but we are figuring out a new way of representing this data. Traditionally, when we invent computers and all of that, we figure out the tables is the right way to represent the data, to work on the transactional data, like it could be employees or any transaction, etc. And now we are at a state where we are representing this data in the LLM model in the terms of parameters. It could be billions and trillions of parameters. So we always talk about big retailers, right? So we often forget about the small retailers. Let's say I, as a individual small shop owner, shirts or a pizza shop owner. So it is very important for this foundational model to be accessible to the general public, so that someone who cannot really afford a technical or technology division, like a small shop cannot really afford, right? Maybe they don't have the technical skills to use AI models. This foundational models acts as a base for them to really get into the AI, dump all the data into the open source model or any foundational model, take it and then deploy, or maybe third party, right? You just dump all of your sales data onto this foundational AI, and you are actually leveraging some sophisticated analytics and patterns. You are able to figure out, hey, on a Friday evening, what kind of pizza are famous? On which season of the year, what shirts are most sold? Or maybe what is that customers are really want to buy. So these foundational models are accessible to the small scale retailers also. With this generative AI, all the revolution happening, I think we are in a verge of bringing this all high-tech AI capabilities not into the big organizations or medium organizations, which requires $1 billion of investment to train and build those things. Now anyone can access that by just paying $10 a month. I believe that is the most fundamental change we are looking at. It's going to empower a lot of retailers.
Absolutely. I think what he made a point is really very important point. That is the reason we have so many models, LLMs, right? They exist because some are good at something and some are good at something else. Some are bad at something else, right? So one interesting thing which he brought up was that, you need to have a model for retail sector. Does it make sense? Makes sense, right? Because you want to ensure that you're catering customer needs, which are retail specific. Like that the models can exist for different other type of domains. So it's mostly domain-based model, right? So customer service is one point, and then managing a store is also another aspect, right? How do you manage a store? That means when you say managing a store, managing inventory, and ensuring that there is an engagement between the people who work within the store, right? So Vihar, you may want to add something on that?
Yeah, so when you brought up that point, right? So merchandise locations, that brings up a huge sales boost. And also maybe the associate locations, like we have multiple associates working in a bigger store, right? Maybe their location really makes the difference for customer service, because if we are running out of the stock, they need to be available to restock it quickly. Because once the customer is gone, they're not going to buy milk again tomorrow. They're going to go to the next store, right? So it's once lost, it's lost. This domain-specific model, in-store experience, right? You can boost the productivity, and along with that, you can improve the customer satisfaction. They both go hand in hand.
So there is an imaginary use case. Let's talk about Vihar. That's a very good point, right? Let's say there is a 70,000 square feet retail store, right? And then there are multiple departments or multiple areas of the retail store, something where you get inventory in the back, and somewhere you have inventory which is, there could be a middle tier, right, where the inventory is put, and that there could be a sales floor section, right? You definitely want to prioritize which section, maybe as a question to you all, which section is more important for the sales? The back room or the middle tier or the sales floor? Which section is more important for the sales and the retail organization, right, or retail store?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Sarah, our Met Retail Professional.
Yeah.
Both, because sometimes you're not going to be able to touch what's on the floor, but an expedited process is very important because time is money.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's a good point. Anyone else wants to add? Then I'll support her argument, and also there is another argument there.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what she's saying, but I was also going to bring in like schematics. Like a lot of times people huddle in the back of a store. Mm-hmm. And so wherever there's a lot of people that tend to group around, whether they're socializing or whether they're sitting down, mm-hmm. that's like a perfect opportunity for sales. Because mm-hmm. human behavior is very important, and it's very obvious when you go into a store where people frequent at and where people are more comfortable at.
That is also right. These all are valid answers.
So maybe use AI to prioritize which one goes first based on the trends and time?
Absolutely. I think it's all about how do you engage your associates to better serve the customer. There could be, go ahead. I think she wants to add a few more.
I'm going to give a perfect example right now. There's a store, and I hope nobody works here, but if you do, this is just really positive feedback. There's a store called, no, I'm not going to say it. There is a retail store on Bond Street where there's display, and then they run into the back, and it's supposed to be this high-touch experience. Well, the amount of waiting takes away the luxury feel, especially if you're spending $400 on a dress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to add on customer perspective? So I'll just add my perspective and then I'll let you both add the customer and the associate perspective. For me, at the end of the day, both are important. For me, it is how efficiently the store operates is more important, which means if there is more velocity of, some kind of transactions which are happening in the front of the store where there are more customers, maybe I may have to balance out and bring someone who is working from back room to the sales floor, but most important thing is serve the customer. Similarly, there could be a possibility where there is some time which can be utilized of a sales floor associate in helping out back room because there is a freight which came in, there's a lot of stuff which came in and we need to stock it, right? So how do you do this, right? You have to have complex calculations, and that's where AI comes into picture to predict accurately when to assign what to whom, right? So I'll let Vihar and Naren add their perspective in terms of customer and associate. Maybe Vihar, you want to get started?
So just to extend that, right? For example, you have a freight that is docked, and we have to quickly act on getting out the refrigerator items, or else you can't really serve the customers, right? That's the end goal. So it really boils down to how we properly manage the associate time. So it comes through experimentation. It comes through analysis, constant analysis, right? That's where AI can help. If we do certain tasks in certain order, how can we quickly get something served to the customer and also manage the inventory? And if we tie it to a personalized associate tracking, then which associate is experienced in which department. Maybe the task can be assigned with that. So AI can really help manage these two and balance out.
I'll just rephrase what Vihar mentioned before we go to the customer perspective. Let's say you have different people. Everyone is different here. Everyone is unique, right? You all have your own capabilities, right? You are good at something. You are very good at something, right? And you're excellent at something else, right? So do I know, is there any way AI can figure out that what you are good at? Think about it, right? It is possible. Absolutely. That means maybe age, maybe language, maybe your previous historical efficiency in doing something, maybe any data, right, which basically could frame how exactly this person operates, right? And putting the right person at the right place is more important. Let it be within the store, or let it be, in the back or in the middle or in the sales floor, right? So that's what Vihar is mentioning. Assigning the task based on a person, historical.
So sometimes experience, right?
Yeah.
Because someone is really good at, automobile section. They can be effective there.
Yeah, absolutely. Naren?
Sure. I think all in all, just to summarize, right? So these models are really good in analyzing these complex patterns and then, identify the anomalies. For the same example, what Balvinder and Vihar was mentioning, in this case, running out of inventory on the sales floor is an anomaly that actually impacts heavily onto any retailer, be it small or big. If there is no item to be sold, you're essentially not generating a revenue. So that's why these anomaly detection capabilities are very helpful. They're actually helpful either in the inventory management, or it could be anywhere you want to figure out the anomalies. I think actually these LLMs are really good at those things.
Yeah. Aditya?
Yeah, so just before we break now, we're almost at the end of this session. Any questions from the audience? Yes.
I'm just wondering, you mentioned that you're constantly, or that somebody might be constantly analyzing the assistants or the associates who are going through. It makes sense to me that you're able to analyze the inventory and where it is in the store, but how are you able to understand the associate and how their efficiency is?
Very good question. So let it be any profession, right? We all work based on task assignment. If I am a software engineer, there'll be a task assigned to me and I have a time window in which I need to accomplish that. Similarly, let it be a retail store or let it be any other organization, right? How efficiently you are able to execute task, how quickly you are able to complete the task, and what exactly is the task, right? Most important thing is what exactly is the task, right? That is the determination. That is the learning. And that would actually take you there. Now, I cannot get more deeper into it, but I hope I'm able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
One last question. Anyone else has a question? Okay.
So one of the biggest problem which retailers face is returns. As you know, it impacts the bottom line. So I know you can't go specifics, but in general, what's the trend are you seeing from solving that problem?
You want to go?
Take it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can take that question. I think I was discussing the same topic, right? Like, I mean, we are discussing AI. I just want to take the opportunity again, explain like how AI can help here, right? So when the returns happens, be it could be a small scale retailer or a big scale retailer, there is always this questionnaire and the reasons were asked, like why are you returning? That is to understand what was the problem and to identify if there is a trend of similar products being returned on any region, or it could be any batch of the products. Using the AI, we can actually analyze the reasons exactly why these products are written. And also, we can leverage the data of the comments or the reviews which were posted on the product page to identify the root cause and what are the pain points of the customers. Hey, why are their ratings are falling for this particular product? We can actually correlate all that with the batch of the production manufactured products, and then even send an action items to the suppliers or the manufacturer. That's like a feedback loop from the sellers to the buyers and back to back. Like the customers provide this feedback and it actually goes back to the supplier or the manufacturer itself, so that they can actually improvise the product manufacturing itself. It could be the quality issue, or it could be the lifetime issue or the spec issue or something. This is one feedback loop where AI can condense these problems and then give an actionable tasks back to this manufacturer. I think that one of the really nice use case. It's called as like there are technologies available. You can see there are a lot of third-party technologies also providing this capability called virtual try-on. So now you see DALL-E and all the models are actually can understand the image much better than previously, where you give your photo, let's say, just to give an example, you give your photo, upload your photo, and then just ask, hey, can you transform me in a party with certain background? It can actually generate with you being in that party, right? The same concept, if you take it, you can actually have the dress virtually available, which could be 3D scanned or well measured, and these models can actually stitch this dress onto you, and then actually can come up with a lot of metadata. It's all about probability, right? What is the probability in which this dress actually matches? This problem usually happens where certain manufacturers mark this as M, the same size may be marked as L. Based on the feedback which we receive from the customers, we can actually fine-tune this model to understand, hey, this is in reality, it's actually supposed to be standardly marked as L, where it is marked as M. Maybe this doesn't fit to you. So that's all kind of experiments happening in the retail industries that actually tackles these kind of problem.
So first and foremost thing is there's no percentage definition for any problem solution today. I think I would not even go to the models right now, right? So one thing is basic analytics, right? What does basic analytics tell, right? If you are, like you gave an example, right, in terms of, people buying merchandise which are clothing, right? So when we have clothes which are sold in any retailer, it is possibility that the clothes are manufactured at one place and then brought into the store and sold, right? Which means there is a life cycle behind that. And that life cycle could be anything. It could be a supplier, it could be a distributor, it could be a specification, it could be anything, right? So when we get the feedback, or when a retailer gets a feedback that, hey, there are more returns because of clothing merchandise, that feedback needs to be captured. Now, one example is, having a computer vision based trial in store. When you go to the store and then you just stand in front of that particular computer vision based application, you are able to see that the application is able to measure you properly and you're able to get the right merchandise, right? So I would not say 50%, 30%, 40% when the problem is solved, but result of the feedback, result of the analytics and result of the AI, are you able to improvise the store experience and are you able to improvise the online experience, right? So that's a continuous loop, but there can be things which can be better than that, but I would say that is the most predictable thing which an organization can solve beyond anything else, right? So.
Thank you for the panels, and thank you all for attending. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Thank you all again. I just want to say, as I do every time I teach the class in NYU, what did you learn out of this, right? And what did you take out of this? Because we're going to do 11 more of these events all across the state, so do get the word out for others who you think may benefit from a session like this. And I'll just recap for everyone. We talked about the digital you. We remember that. We talked about the half-life problem. We remember that. We talked about the right job, which was interestingly connected the dot here, the right job for scheduling at the end. We talked about taking stupid out of work. We talked about the need for human connection and minimizing human error through AI. We also talked about the threat of bad actors and the need for AI governance. We also talked about the 2 AI models, and I said the third one we can learn about over lunch, the Delta learner and the buyer's agent. So with that, share with your friends, and hopefully we'll see more of you and your friends in subsequent events.